Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to yet another video. About a week ago now, I made a video tour of my new rental property, or at least the vacant side of that duplex, and we briefly jumped into the numbers on that property. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll go ahead and put a link up at the top here for you guys to go ahead and add that to your watch list. However, in today's video, I want to take a much deeper dive into how to analyze a rental property and some very important things to keep in mind as you analyze that rental property that can help you either make a lot of money or potentially save you money, or if you don't pay attention to them, once again could end up losing you money. So very important video today. I'm going to use that new rental property as an example and work through that one again. However, I'll break down in this video exactly how to analyze that rental property. So before we dive into that, guys, if you would go ahead and like this video, I'd really appreciate it. And once again, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Real estate and personal finance content coming to this channel twice a week, so I'd love to see you back in the next video. So now that that's out of the way, the first thing you really want to do when analyzing a rental property is establish your business plan and your desired exit strategy on that deal. Depending on your business strategy and that exit strategy, your analysis on the property is going to be a little bit different. For example, if you're buying a flip, you don't necessarily really care about the cash flow on that deal. Maybe short term you do while you hold that property, but you're looking primarily for the value add. If you're buying a turnkey buy and hold rental, well, you're concerned about the current cash flow on that deal, as there's really no value add on it since the renovation's already been done. And so your primary return comes from the cash flow. And then my favorite business model, which is the BRRRR strategy, where you buy a property usually in disrepair, renovate it, rent it out, and then refinance it to pull cash out. That business model, you want to look at the current cash flow, the future cash flow, and the value add. So first things first, go ahead and lock in on that desired business strategy, the one that helps you achieve your goals the quickest, and then we'll use that to help determine what numbers we need to calculate before we purchase this property. So the first thing I like to do when analyzing a rental property, aside from establishing that business plan, is to calculate the current cash flow. And that number is based on the current rental income of the property and the expenses you're going to have to manage once you acquire that deal. I like to do this when I work on my BRRRR method of investing, because usually with that method, you might have a little bit of negative cash flow because you're taking a property that needs vacated, renovated, rented, and refinanced. And so I want to plan ahead for how much negative cash flow I'm going to need to handle, and then add that negative amount to my renovation budget, as that counts as holding costs. I would also do this same analysis for a flip, and if you're buying and holding turnkey investments, this is probably where you'll end. Maybe you'll do a little bit of analysis based on if you can lower expenses and increase income a little bit, but not much. So let's go ahead and dive into the screen share back here on my computer. We'll run through the numbers of my most recent rental property in its current condition, and we'll look at how negative it is for me and how much money I need to reserve for my holding costs. Okay, so welcome to my computer screen here. So I went ahead and pre-filled some of the information about my new rental property, which is the purchase price up here for $160,000, the closing costs we had on that since we financed it, as well as the loan details on it. So we did a 95% loan to value, 3.875 interest rate for 30 years, which gives me principal and interest of $714. Then if we go over to my rent roll tab, one side of the unit is currently getting $640 while the other is vacant and we're renovating it. So that is the current income that I want to use to determine how negative I'm going to be when we close on this property, which we already have last week, but this is for demonstration purposes. So if we come back over here, we have our expenses over here that we need to plan for. So I do $20 per person in water. So currently there's only one side rented, and that's a 3-bedroom, so that should be $60-ish. Vacancy I leave blank. It's normally around 5 to 10%, but I leave it blank since I'm already factoring in vacancy with no rent over here. Taxes, these are our These will be our adjusted taxes probably about a year from now, but I still use them as current taxes just to be safe, even though current taxes are probably about $100 less than this a month. There might be a little bit of utilities since we're doing a renovation on, but I've left it blank for now. You could throw in a little bit here to be a little bit more conservative. 75 is our insurance, and then I actually go ahead and zero out the reserves for maintenance and capex, because what I want to see here is my hard holding costs. What are the costs I need to pay every single month? Since I'm having a renovation budget on this property, maintenance and capex won't really apply since we're gutting it anyway. Lawn care down here, since we're in the summer months. So that gives us a monthly expenses of $461 plus the principal and interest on the loan for a total of $1,175.76 a month. However, we do have that $640 coming in. So we can see right up here in my current calculations that the monthly total cash flow is negative $535 a month. So that's the number I need to be aware of when I'm doing my current cash flow calculation. If it's going to take me 6 months to renovate both sides, well, currently as I renovate the vacant unit right now, I'm losing $535 a month. Then we could say maybe when I'm done renovating this, it'll be up to $1,200 like my pro forma suggests and what I think I can get in this market. However, the tenants on this side will have moved out because I'll be renovating that side now. Now we can see, oh, we're break even. Nothing else really changes here. We're break even as soon as we get one unit re-rented at market. However, we can ignore the percent returns for now because I haven't thrown in my rehab costs yet. So my cash on cash is based on only my down payment and closing costs and not the money I've put into renovating the units yet. So all we're worried about right now is, am I break even like I am here? Am I negative like I just was? Am I negative like I just was on closing here? So back at the 640. And that's it. That's what we really want to pay attention to here when closing on a property, because we need to see, all right, if it's going to take me 3 months to get this unit, the one unit renovated, well, I have $500 negative a month-ish. That's $1,500 I need to add to my renovation budget to make sure I can cover this. Maybe even a little bit extra in case the renovations run long. So now that we've determined the negative or positive cash flow as soon as we acquire the asset, and we're okay with that number, the next thing I like to look at is the current and future value of that asset. Once again, if you're purchasing a turnkey rental property, then you really just want to analyze, is the purchase price a fair market value? Since you won't really be adding any value through a value add renovation. For residential property, this can be done by just asking your real estate agent for comparable sales in the market of that property, or by looking through Zillow or Realtor.com or any other website like that for recent sales in your market that are similar to that property. However, if you're doing the BRRRR method of investing, you have a little bit more work to do, as you need to determine the current value of that property and what you should be paying for it, as well as the future value of that property once you renovate it. This can once again be done by asking your real estate agent for comparable sales based on current condition and then on future condition of the property. The fun part is now taking your renovation budget and seeing if the amount of value add justifies the amount of work and capital you need to put into the project. I like to see about a 1x return on my money. So for example, if I buy a house for $100,000 and determine my renovation budget is $50,000, I need to see that property worth about $200,000. And this is enough for me because I'm buy and hold. I'm not reselling this property and having to pay closing costs and commissions and things like that like you would as a flipper. Finally, the last thing I like to do is calculate the future cash flow on the deal. So this is, for the BRRRR method, after we've refinanced the property and have that new debt service, what will the cash flow be? This isn't too necessary for flipping or buy and hold, because flipping, you're selling the property, and buy and hold, nothing's really changing. You probably aren't refinancing that property as you're adding no new value to it. However, it might still be somewhat worthwhile. And this is going to be pretty much the exact same as calculating the current cash flow, but just with using the new expense numbers and the new income numbers. So let's go ahead and dive into the screen share one more time and we'll go over that. So we'll go ahead and adjust some numbers here. So the purchase price will still be $160,000. However, our rehab costs on this project, we're thinking around $35,000, will have all been implemented and the units will be turned around. Both sides will be rented, which normally I'd use the pro forma here if I'm comparing current and future, but I'm just going to throw it all in here and do it with you. So $1,200 a side I think I can get in this neighborhood. Water, they're 3-bedroom units, so water at $20 a person fully rented will be $120. My vacancy rate I'm going to put back up at 5%. Management, I do my own management, so I have no number in here, but we can play around with this. So we can see, once we're done filling in all these expenses, we can see, well, when I manage it myself, I get this return, but obviously my time is spent, the hours. If I have a management company do it, which would be, maybe 8% plus releasing fees, well, what's my cash flow at that point? So let's leave it blank. We'll come back to that. Vacancy 5%. Taxes will remain the same on this property. They might even be lower than this because I'm going to do a tax abatement on this property. So it's kind of hit or miss if they lock the taxes at the previous value before the sale, or if they'll lock it at the sale and not the future value. Gas, electric will be nothing because the tenants take care of that. Insurance will be the same. So maintenance and CapEx will be 5% of the total monthly revenue for each, no less than $100. So say we're only bringing in $1,800 a month, 5% of that would be less than $100, so we round up to 100. So that's $120 for each of these. There's no PMI on this loan. Lawn care for this property will be around $40 a month, but it's only for a portion of the season, so I just lower it down a little bit. So we see at this point our future cash flow is 21% on the total in the deal, which is $45,000, or $800 a month, which is pretty dang good. I like to see over 15% here. However, we can play with this a little further. So you end the BRRRR method with a cash out refinance, usually to take your money out of the deal and then move it on to another property. So let's say the future value of this property will be around $250,000. So I can remove my rehab costs and then go $250,000 as the new sale price. And what we're doing here is we're then going to fill in the loan details for the new refinance loan. So we'll have additional closing costs on it, so we'll leave that in there. A refinance, especially a cash out, will be at a 75 loan to value. Interest rate as a primary residence, we can still get a 3.875, and we'll refinance. Me and my partner will live in one of the units, so we'll refinance at a low rate like this. Hopefully, 30-year term. And so what we can see here is that we're down to an 8.66, $470 a month cash flow, and you might think, well, 8.66% is pretty terrible. However, that's not the case because we don't have $65,000 in the deal here. So we had an initial loan amount of $152,000, and now a 75 loan to value on the new appraised purchase price of $250 will put us at a $187 loan. So the difference here is $35,000. So initially in the deal, if you remember thinking back, we had $45,000 when it came to the down payment and the renovation costs. And now we're taking 35 out, less closing costs, so maybe more like 33. So our total in the deal is our initial 45 minus our cash out. So we only have $12,000 in the deal right now. So if we put that $12,000 up here, we're really seeing a cash on cash return of 47%, which is pretty dang crazy, and that's the awesome power of real estate and leveraging other people's money. Now, what you do need to be careful about is if you refinance here and all of a sudden your cash flow is negative or it's super low, it doesn't make the deal worth it anymore. So for example, if this was a slightly better deal and we could pull out all our money, then at zero, obviously the return's going to be infinity. But what happens if, with the added debt service, the cash flow goes down to $50 a month? Well, I never like to see that. What I want to see minimum is $100 a unit. This is 2 units, so minimum I'd like to see is $200. Preferably, I like to see $150 to $250 a unit. So that'd be around $300 to $500, and that's perfect for us right here. So these are all things you need to think about once you have your exit strategy in mind. If you don't plan on refinancing, it doesn't really matter. You want to pay attention to the total in the deal, the initial percent, and cash flow, but you don't need to think about any new loan on it because it doesn't matter. The other thing we want to think about is, all right, management. If we complete the process, we refinance, and I don't want to manage this anymore. Well, 8% is kind of the going rate. And then a duplex usually stays occupied for 2 or 3 years at a time. We tend to charge our tenants a little bit lower than market to keep them longer. So release fees in my market are about a half a month's rent. So $2,400 divided by 2 is $1,200 release fee. And if both units open up every, let's say, 2 years, that means we're spending $600 a year in release fees. Divided by 12 is $50 a month. So we can throw that down here for release fees. And that shows, it's still a pretty good deal because we're still getting, my minimum of $100 a unit, so $200 total. I don't love to see that the cash flow is so low for the amount of effort we put into it, but it's still a good return of the money in the deal. So this is something I'll consider if I ever move out of Columbus or I have too many units to manage them all. I will go ahead and have a management company take over. Now, I might be able to shop rates a little bit lower on the management company, but you have to be careful with that because the lower a management company is compensated, the less they're going to care about your property. So that's it, guys. That's how you calculate future cash flow. So guys, that's how I analyze a rental property, and that's how I make sure the numbers make sense for me and my investment criteria every step through the BRRRR method. I only do the BRRRR method. I don't like flipping a property as I like to hang on to that cash flow month after month. And I don't like buying turnkey rentals as I make the majority of my income from renovating and adding value to properties. So with that said, guys, I hope that's super helpful for you all, and you guys can jump in and start analyzing and eventually buying rental properties using the things you learned today in this video. So guys, thank you so much for checking out my channel and checking out this video. Please leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new to the channel here. Really appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next video.